Hello guys, my name is Ausra and welcome to my podcast Thinking in Sound. Today is episode number 28 and today I'll try to talk a little bit about how to practice the organ and what not to do when sitting on the organ bench. Because I think it's really important for us all to maintain our good organ playing skills. So, and at the beginning, I really wanted to thank you for watching my last episode last week and commenting on it. I received so many comments. I was really astonished and was really happy and thankful to each and every one of you who listened and who commented, actually. So, I hope you will enjoy this episode too and will find it useful. So now, the rule number one. Don't use your cell phone while practicing, because it might be really distracting and you might be watching not to your organ score but to the screen all the time. So better to set it aside, maybe leave it in another room, or just silence it for the time while you are practicing and sitting on the organ bench. So don't listen to other stuff while playing. And I even did not know that this is possible when one day I saw Vidas doing it. He was using his AirPods and practicing the organ at the same time. So I really asked what is he doing, and he said that he is listening to some other music or to some other podcast while just playing. Well, of course, if you would maybe be playing, Etude by Czerny, it would be okay. But, if you are really working on the organ repertoire, try not to do it. It's not a good habit. It's not a nice habit. Bad Vidas. Don't do it, Vidas. So, another, practicing tip that might ruin your practice is if you are playing all the time every piece from the beginning to the end. Because why it's the bad thing? I think because you will never get enough time, to practice the entire repertoire if you will play all the time, all the pieces from the beginning to the end. If you really want to save time and make your practice as efficient as you can, you really need to select the hardest episodes from your piece and work on it before you play entire piece from the beginning to the end. Well, because there are always episodes that might repeat themselves, like often we have a reprise at the end of a piece that repeats the opening episode, and if you will play from the beginning to end every time, so it means that some of easier spots or those repeated sections will always be your strength, and all those hard spots will always stay your weakness. So in order to avoid these weaknesses and know entire piece really well, try not to practice all the time from the beginning to the end. Well, another advice would be, don't look at the pedal board all the time. It's okay to watch to the pedals once in a while, maybe in some tricky spot, or if you are really sitting on the unfamiliar organ where you haven't had much practice time and really need to play well. You might want to take a quick look at the pedal board, but in general, try to avoid it, especially when you are playing in your familiar surrounding on the instrument that you know very well. Of course, it will take time to get rid of that habit, but it's possible. And well, it's actually not that difficult as you might think at first. Another thing is, lifting your feet too high above the pedals while playing. Because this might make your pedal playing less accurate, and you might need to do an extra motion, which is not good. You try to stay as economic with your feet movement as possible. Another thing is use the pedal preparation, because it often leads us to the pushing the wrong pedal note if we are not preparing our foot in advance. So basically, for do that pedal preparation, you also need to study your score, to know your music really well, to know where the big leaps are in the pedal board, to know in which part of the score, and really know what the feet is doing. Because as I noticed, for example, our students playing in Undamari studio, sometimes we are really unconscious of what their feet are doing, and let's see, you hit, let's see, the G note, low G note with your left foot, and you have the rest for a few bars, and then you again need to hit the same note. And the smartest thing would be just to keep your foot ready for the G note and not to wander around with it, somewhere. That way you will be more accurate and you won't play the wrong note. Okay, guys, now I'll just take a sip of a water from a wonderful Secrets of Organ Playing mug. Oh, water tastes really good on a hot summer day, a hot and humid day. I think this mug is perfect for you to have while you practice, because it's not a cell phone and you really need to stay hydrated while practicing. Okay, now the next tip would be, don't use too much of your wrists and shoulders while playing, because we do this as we all have played piano before we started to play the organ. And often, like beginner organists who practice piano before that, they sit on the organ bench and they start, to moving wrists and elbows and doing all those stuff, all those movements. These are truly unnecessary on the organ bench and while playing the organ. And I know that this sort of body motions and also moving your shoulders and breathing deeply and, let's see, moving from one side to another side. I know why people are doing that, because we want to show that we are playing musically, that we are involved in the music, that we feel music. And I often get, really these nasty comments about my playing, how unmusical it is. And well, I think it's because I'm trying to be really economic with my body motions. But it does not mean that I don't feel the music that I'm playing. But remember this thing, in order to be efficient at the organ bench, you always need to think with your head and be that your head should lead your playing. You really need to be mindful, and all that emotional stuff comes actually later on, because if you will let just your emotions rule you, you will never play organ really well. So drop these unnecessary body motions. It will only ruin your organ playing skills. So also, you need to have the plan how you are going to pedal and finger your piece, because very often the case, especially with beginner organists, that we refusing to write with fingering and pedaling into the score. And of course, if you are professional and you are concert organist playing organ for many years, obviously you don't need to do it, because your body already knows what works and what works not. But if you are just beginner and you want write down your fingering and pedaling, it won't be good, because it means that every time when you sit and practice the same piece, you will be using different pedaling and different fingering. And well, if you are having lots of time and nothing else to do, yes, you could do that probably. But if you are trying to save your time, then really please write down your fingering and pedaling, because it will save you time, because your body will get used to the same fingering and pedaling in the same piece, and you will learn it much faster, and your final performance will be much better, and you can play with more confidence. Also, you really need to know when you are jumping from one manual to another one. You really need to mark that in your score if it's not marked already, and you need to think in advance that in that spot, in that particular place, you have to jump from manual to manual. And if you are playing only on 2 manual instrument, then it probably won't be such a big problem. But if you are playing on the organ which has 3 or more keyboards, then it becomes really important, because you might need to jump, let's say, from the first keyboard to the fourth keyboard, or from the third keyboard to the first keyboard, and it might take time. And if you don't know the particular place where that thing happens, you might not do your jump as efficient and as accurate as it should be. Well, also another thing, when we talked not to moving your wrist and elbows too much, another bad thing is to keeping your elbows really close to your body and playing like this. This is also really awkward and really bad habit. So your elbows really need to breathe, don't put them to your body, just keep them really nice and relaxed, and let them breathe. So, because otherwise you will, ruin your hands by doing that, because, and people do that on both on the organ and on the piano while playing it. You can observe it sometimes. Also, another thing is, to use much force while pressing the key down, because if you are thinking again that you played piano and you wanted to have forte, you did this big movement and hit the key hard, and it made this big sound. So on organ, this is really unnecessary and really a bad habit that you really need to get rid of it. So just try to stick to the keys as closely as possible. Well, think about blind people, how they are reading or playing the organ or reading the their books. We always stay in contact with with the keys or with the book, that we would touch it at all times. So we, while playing the organ, need to keep that in mind and try also that technique that will also make our movements more economic and our organ playing more efficient and more accurate. So also another really bad habit that really many of us want to make and are making all the time, especially when it's not a new piece for us, but let's say we are at the final stages of learning it and the recital or other public performances coming up soon, that we play fast all the time. And it's really a bad habit, because while playing always the piece in the concerto tempo might also ruin it. So I'm not telling that you can't play fast, but while doing the fast practice, always go back and play the piece in a slow tempo. It really helps you to stay in control and not to not to ruin your piece, because the fast tempo all the time might really ruin your music and your piece, and you might need to either learn it from scratch, which is always really hard thing to do, or you might need entirely to drop that piece, because it's easier to learn a new piece than to fix up the ruined piece. So be really mindful about your tempos and do the slow practice as well. So I think these are the main points, the main tips that I wanted to give you today. And I'm really thank you very much for watching, and I'm hoping that you will find this episode useful. And I'm really looking forward to your questions and to your feedback, to your comments. And I appreciate you for watching it, and I'll see you next week in my next episode. Bye bye.